Nevada and Utah supervolcanoes discovered 20 ancient supervolcanoes in this area. We've seen earthquake swarms. We've even had today at Carson City, Nevada, 2.3, and another one in Ferrin, Utah, 2.3. This is just today's, March 19th, March 20th. And they're ongoing. And sometimes we have such activity, seismic events, and we're wondering why they should take place there. And it's because of the fact that this is a volcanic area. Supervolcanoes situated between Long Valley Caldera of California and parallel and south of Yellowstone, which is another supervolcano. But this is a tremendously huge, as you can see here, volcanic field. And the whole area is seeing daily earthquake swarms. "20 ancient supervolcanoes discovered in Utah and Nevada." This is a world map showing a few supervolcanoes, and you can see a number of them over the western United States. 20 ancient supervolcanoes. Well, we know that Yellowstone is a supervolcano in the area of Wyoming, and we have another 20 ancient supervolcanoes recently discovered in Utah and Nevada. The video before this one, we spoke about the sleeping giants of the United States supervolcanoes that created hell on earth about 30 to 35 million years ago. Geologists from Brigham Young University, Berkeley Geochronology Center, and the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory found evidence of 20 ancient supervolcanoes near the Utah-Nevada border. And of course, we're talking about the Wawa Springs area, Indian Peak, Caliente, Igni Bright Field. The map here shows the locations of the ancient supervolcanoes, plural, in Utah and Nevada. Supervolcanoes are giant volcanoes. They blast out more than 1,000 cubic kilometers of volcanic material when they erupt. 1,000 cubic kilometers is the size of Yellowstone. Wawa blasted over 5 times that, 5,500 cubic kilometers, about 30 million years ago. So if they blast out more than 1,000 cubic kilometers of volcanic material, they are considered supervolcanoes. They're different from the more familiar stratovolcanoes because they are not as obvious to the naked eye and affect enormous areas. Supervolcanoes are some of Earth's largest volcanic edifices, yet they do not stand as high cones. At the heart of a supervolcano instead is a large collapse. Those collapses in supervolcanoes occur with the eruption and form enormous holes in the ground and plateaus known as calderas. This is what Dr. Eric Christensen of Brigham Young University, who is the co-author of 2 papers published in the journal Geosphere, paper 1, paper 2, explains. He says the newly discovered supervolcanoes are not active today, but 30 million years ago, more than 5,500 cubic kilometers of magma had erupted in a 1-week period near a place called Wawa Springs in southern Utah. Utah towards Nevada. Deposits from this single eruption are a whopping 4 kilometers thick. Can you imagine the devastation being under deposits under 4 kilometers thick? It would have been catastrophic to anything living within hundreds of miles, explained Dr. Christensen. It would have been hell on earth. Dinosaurs were already extinct during this period, but what many people do not know is that 25 to 30 million years ago, North America was home to rhinoceros, camels, tortoises, and the United States even had palm trees. Dr. Christensen with colleagues measured the thickness of this pyroclastic flow deposit. They used radiometric dating, X-ray fluorescence spectrometry, and chemical analysis of the materials in order to verify that this volcanic ash was all from the same ancient super eruption. And that's exactly what they concluded. The scientists found that Wawa Springs erupted. The eruption buried a vast region that extended from central Utah to central Nevada, and from Filmora on the north to Cedar City on the south. They even found traces of ash as far away as Nebraska. You can imagine how exciting it was for them to discover that all of this area was from one eruption. The team also found evidence of 15 super eruptions and 20 large calderas. This is what's called the area of the Indian Peak Caliente Caldera Complex. This complex of supervolcanoes have diameters of up to 60 kilometers and are filled with intra-caldera tuff and breccias. They have been hidden in plain sight for millions of years despite their enormous size. Because of the enormous size, that's why people didn't ever think of the fact that it would have been one volcano. The ravages of erosion and later deformation have largely erased them from the landscape, Dr. Christensen explains, and he goes on to say, but our careful work has revealed their details. The sheer magnitude of this required years of work and involvement of dozens of students in putting this story together. Now here you have the comparison of Yellowstone with Wawa, and you see that at one time we said in a previous video that Yellowstone would have had anywhere from 100 feet of ash to 3 feet of ash, 3 meters, 1,000 feet of ash, depending on how close you were to the center of the explosion. Well, Wawa Springs is 4 kilometers height of ash. That's an amazing amount. What would happen now if a supervolcano eruption occurred again, for example, at Yellowstone? Such a great eruption would have regional effects such as falling ash and short-term, years to decades, changes to global climate. That's just from Yellowstone, which is about a fifth of Wawa. Those parts of the surrounding states of Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming are the closest to Yellowstone. They would be affected by pyroclastic flows, while other places in the United States would be impacted by falling ash. The amount of ash would decrease with distance from the eruption site. Such eruptions usually form calderas, broad volcanic depressions created as the ground surface collapses as a result of withdrawal of partially molten rock, the magma from below. Fortunately, the chances of this sort of eruption at Yellowstone are exceedingly small in the next few thousand years. This is what is written on USGS's site. Are earthquakes at Yellowstone related to volcanism? USGS explains. Almost all earthquakes at Yellowstone are brittle failure events caused when rocks break due to crustal stresses. Though we've been looking at Yellowstone for years, no one has yet identified long period events commonly attributed to magma movement. If long period events are observed, that will not mean Yellowstone is getting ready to erupt. LP, or long period events, earthquakes commonly occur at other volcanoes in the world, including volcanoes in California that have not erupted for centuries or millennia. One variety of ground shaking called tremor is observed at Yellowstone's geothermal areas whenever water boils in a geyser. The largest historic earthquake in the Rocky Mountains was a magnitude 7.3 earthquake at Hebgen Lake, northwest of Yellowstone in 1959, 7.3 magnitude. It was caused by the extension or stretching of the Earth's crust. The earthquake displaced a 40-kilometer long fault, 25 miles, that rose vertically up to 12 meters, that's 40 feet. Shaking from earthquakes can also change the way that Yellowstone's hydrothermal systems behave. The interval between eruptions of Old Faithful Geyser increased significantly following the 1959 earthquake. I'll leave links below for you for this. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.